Some bicycles can be upgraded into e-bikes using kits you can find and buy online. These kits aren't usually available in retail or bike shops though. The most common is the hub motor kit. It uses a wheel with a hub in the center that contains a DC electric motor, also called an e-hub or an e-wheel. If you're new to e-bike kits, there are a few others besides hub motors you can look into. There's the mid-drive that uses an electric pedal assist motor to help you drive the bicycle chain. The other is the tire or friction drive that uses an electric motor with a roller that gears onto the outside of the rubber tire and pushes the wheel from the outside. I'll go over all the different electric motor options available on e-bikes in another video. This video is just about the hub motor kits. They are fairly easy to install, they're simple, they're widely compatible, and available. Now you can simplify the installation of hub motor kits into 3 steps. First, you must choose a matching bicycle and kit. Not any kit will work with any bicycle. I'll go over choosing those 2 things later in the video. Number 2, you need someone with competency or the ability to build things, work a little bit on bicycles, at least be able to change out a front tire and use an 8-inch or possibly a 10-inch adjustable wrench, and some basic electronics wiring. You may need to crimp a connector and strip a wire or 2 as well, and at least you're going to have to route the cables on the bike if nothing else. And number 3, lastly, you'll need a few extra parts before you go on your first ride and make sure everything fits safely and securely as possible. These might be things like a reinforced kickstand, rack, some extra Velcro to wrap the wires, torque arms to prevent the dropouts from being damaged, and things like that. Alright, step 1, choosing the bicycle. Now before I get into details here, just as a disclaimer, I want to say that I'm not an engineer yet. This is just my opinion, and if you modify a bicycle, you can end up damaging property, hurting yourself, or hurting other people. So proceed at your own risk. First, you need to find a good bicycle candidate for your e-bike kit. Here's a few tips. Older steel frame bicycles are better because they're usually stronger, more over-engineered, and it's easier to weld to steel if it's ever necessary for some reason in the future. You can tell if it's a steel frame by putting a magnet to it. Magnets will stick to steel, but they won't stick to aluminum or carbon fiber. Next, you want to look for bosses, which is where you put those screws for fenders or racks and whatnot. You want to look for those little screw holes called bosses on both dropouts, the front and the rear, and you want to look for the ones for the bottle cages, because some kits have batteries that attach to the water bottle cages, and some kits have racks that hold the battery, and you need those places to attach those parts. You might need a torque arm too, and that also needs those holes to bolt those parts to. You want to look for disc brakes because e-bikes are a little heavier and a little faster, and it's good to have a little more stopping power. Most of the old steel frame bikes use V-brakes though, or a lot of the beach cruiser bikes just use coaster brakes. So that's one of the problems from looking for a good e-bike candidate, is they usually don't have disc brakes if they have a steel frame. There are adapter kits, however, that can convert V-brakes into disc brakes. There's a lot of cheap ones that don't work very well. There's a good one on a website I found that looks like it was engineered pretty well, and I even tried making my own and it worked for a while. I'll have a video about that up later. And you might even be able to find somebody that can just weld a disc brake adapter bracket onto your bike if it's a steel frame bike. So those are the things you want to look for in a bicycle that you want to install an E-hub kit onto. Now how about a dual suspension motorbike with a hub kit? Well, I wouldn't recommend this, okay? Because the suspension takes room up and there's not as much bosses to bolt things to. There's not a lot of room to mount your batteries or the motor, and they're not really engineered. Mountain bikes or dual suspension bikes are not really engineered for E-hub kits. And for those reasons, if you really want a hub kit, I would recommend only one for the rear wheel and only at a low wattage, like 250 watts. How about a 20-inch wheel BMX bike? Well, these wouldn't be a very good platform either for a hub motor kit, although you can find some in that wheel size. BMX bikes don't usually typically have a place to put the battery. You need a water bottle cage to put the battery or a rack, and you'd have to rig up something crazy to put an e-bike battery onto a BMX bike. Or you'd have to have somebody weld something to the frame. Good thing is BMX bikes usually have steel frames. Now how about a trike? The problem with trikes is that their rear drive system isn't compatible with the rear hub motor kit, so you only have the front kit to choose from. But trikes have extra weight, and E-hub kits add extra weight. And then you have this front fork which is pulling all this extra weight, which it wasn't designed to do, and it's not the best thing for your tricycle. If you do install a hub motor kit on a tricycle, make sure that there is a pedal assist system installed so that it operates in all-wheel drive. If you just throttle, it will be front-wheel drive, and then there will be a lot of stress on that front fork because it has to be pulling all that weight. What if you have a roadie bike, the classic bicycle with the skinny frames and the 300C wheels? It's harder to find kits for these bikes, okay? Second of all, the newer ones usually have light, precision engineered frames that aren't good platforms to mod onto. They're usually aluminum or carbon fiber. You can find some older ones that have steel frames that could be decent candidates though. And for if you do find a steel frame roadie bike, I would recommend for a front hub kit no more than 250 watts because they're usually a little skinnier on the front fork, and in the rear you could probably get away with a 500 watt on the rear. What if you have a newer aluminum frame hybrid kind of bicycle with the shocks on the front fork and the gears? Well, the aluminum forks with the shocks, they usually have weaker dropouts, and it's more likely that they might snap. And they're not really engineered to be driven from the front fork. And for those reasons, if you really wanted to, you could probably get away with a 250 watt hub kit on the front fork, and you might be able to get away with a 500 watt kit on the rear. What about the common steel frame hybrid bicycles that often have gears, shifters, and V-brakes and solid front forks? Well, these should be good for either front or rear hub kit systems up to 500 watts. These kinds of bicycles also usually have the bosses or the places to mount bolts to, which is another good thing. Now, probably the safest candidate for a hub kit motor conversion would be a steel frame or chromoly frame bicycle with disc brakes. Now, these are pretty hard to find. They are out there. Diamondback makes a fat wheel bicycle that has chromoly frame and disc brakes. I've also seen a few others out there, but again, they're pretty rare. So hopefully this video helps you find a good bicycle candidate so you can upgrade to an e-bike using an e-hub kit. Look out for the next video that will go over e-hub kit options. There's links in the description. If you want, you can leave a question or a comment. You can subscribe to help out. Stay safe, don't lose your head, and keep building.